welcome to the Unix shell/terminal workshop. We'll also be going over a demonstration of how to run TreeSAPP, but this is more like to understand how we're using the Unix shell in running TreeSAPP. So disclaimer, this is not comprehensive of understanding the Unix shell or anything like that, but and actually for TreeSAPP there will be another workshop coming up next week. So the Unix shell, first of all, let's understand the terms. Like, what are we even trying to do with the Unix shell? So, normally when you're interacting with the computer, you have your computer, right? And you have, your interaction, which is your mouse click. You have your mouse click, and what your goal is to get the computer to do something. And so, with the Unix shell, a very similar thing is happening. But basically, instead of like a mouse click on a button or whatever it is, you have this like screen called terminal, and then you have a command line, and you type it into the command line, and after you enter that, that tells the computer to do something. You tell the computer to do something through that. So let's dive deeper into the terms I'm saying. Like, what is a terminal? A terminal is really just the application that pops up on the screen. Sorry. For example, this is the terminal, right? This whole screen, the thing that I am like increasing, that has different colors, like you can change the background colors. If you were trying to copy and paste something into here, like Control-C, Control-V might not work, depending on the terminal, but that doesn't have anything to do with the commands you're typing, right? So that's simply what allows you to see where you're typing, right? Like you have to see where you're typing somewhere, right? So that's the thing. But what you're actually typing is bash or ZSH. So this is the language that you're typing, and again, it's a language, right? I'm going to emphasize the language because you can type ZSH into like a Google document. You can type ZSH or bash into like I don't know, Google Slides if you wanted to, like, but it doesn't matter if you type it in a Google Doc because nothing can understand it. And that's when you get to the shell part of it. So bash and ZSH are both like shells, also both the language and a shell. And it's a program that allows you to interact with your computer using typed text commands, right? So if I type something here, the computer is able to interact with it. I'm able to, like, there's a ability for this thing to get sent to the computer to understand it as like the language instead of me typing like on like Google Docs, right? So then we have command line. So what is a command line? I think this is best demonstrated with one thing. So here I am going to type print hello, and obviously it's not going to work because print is in Python. But if I open a Python command line, what happens is if I do print hello again, it actually executes correctly and I actually get the desired output, which is I get hello back from me. So what is happening? So actually these are on the same terminal. I have two different types of command lines. I have one, the normal, the normal command line, which is like the PowerShell command line for Windows, and it doesn't understand print. And then I also have the Python command line, which actually does understand print hello world. So again, the command line is the thing that interprets your commands, right? So if you have the correct command line, it'll interpret the correct like languages that you're typing. Finally, you have prompt. So the prompt is the name thingy that lets you know where your input starts. You can see right here, this is my prompt. So this is telling me you are ready to start typing here, okay? And so same thing for Python. If I started the Python command line, here's my prompt, just these 3 lines. So this is telling you I'm ready to listen for the next Python command. I don't need the Python prompt anymore, so there you go. So again, this is our Unix shell. We're trying to understand the terms. Again, what we're doing is in a terminal, we type in the language, and the computer understands it, and we tell the computer to do something. Okay. Is everyone on the same page? If not, no worries. The next thing we want to do is what are we even telling the computer to do? Like, what are we telling the computer to do? Before that, the setup is, if you're on Mac OS, you can follow along with opening ZSH or any of your terminals, and all of the commands will work. If you're on Windows, please open up PowerShell. Don't open up command prompt. So open up the Windows PowerShell. Please do not open something that says command prompt, because this one is a little outdated. It's annoying. It's annoying. Okay. You can also open up Git Bash, or you can open up WSL if you have that. If everything else fails, just use an online simulator. Here's one. Like, you don't really need to know anything extensively. Again, like, don't memorize the language, right? What should I do to command? What should I command the computer to do? Like, what am I telling the computer to do? So Well, what is important to tell the computer? So usually when you're like using your mouse clicks, you open up an app. I double click on the Chrome icon, and it opens up Chrome. That's great. You can, and then I can type in like a URL. You can do that here too. So if I wanted to open like or like www.google.com. Great, I have now gotten the Google code for the website, except obviously it's annoying for me as a human to use it, but I can do that. I can open up the website from here instead of using Chrome, right? I can also check all my folders and files. So like usually you have something that like lets you look at folders and files and everything. Um, yeah, you can do that here too. Yeah, so it's mostly opening, running applications and programs, and folders and file stuff. Right, I opened up the Python earlier. That was an application. That was a program. Now, how do you talk to a computer? So commands should look like this. You should have the command, subcommand, and then you have a flag argument. So the blue and the green, are both optional. So you just need to know the command. There are two main types of commands. There are commands that are built in. So for example, a built-in command that you can try right now is ls. So if you type in ls, it should work, right? And a non-built-in command is like git, right? So if I type in git, because I have git downloaded, it works. But if you didn't have git downloaded, you would probably get something like, oh, the term git was not recognized, or whatever it was, like whatever the error message is, because those are like, you have to download the command. I can also do something like a subcommand. So this would be like an example of a subcommand. So this would be the command, and then the status would be the subcommand. Great. The other thing you could do is you can add a flag. So for example, I can do git-v. Depending on the version, you can also, it might require two flags. Yeah. Python -- version. There we go. Sometimes you need to type out the whole version for if you're checking the version, but sometimes it only wants one dash. You won't be able to know. You just have to search it up. Just Google it. Don't try to memorize which one is which. Just try try things out and figure out which one is like the actual one. But yeah, that would be the flag. The other thing it would be you could do is you can have something like an argument. So for example, in this example, you can type in git-c, and then you have your argument, which is the path, right? But make sure that the path argument corresponds to the C flag, you want to keep it directly behind the -c flag. If you had another flag, for example D or something, and then you had path, then the path would be referring to the D flag and not the C flag, right? So if you want the path to refer to the C flag, you would want it to do it this way. And the reason why I came out with -c path is because after I typed git help, which tells me some of the ways I can use this command, it told me like the C flag comes with the path name, right? And if you don't understand what like this flag means, Google it. Don't try to memorize anything. They change all the time anyways. Alright, so let's follow along. So let's have a bash commands cheat sheet. So you have this online cheat sheet. You can use it. Don't memorize the language. Google everything. Yeah. So let's do echo. So if you know what echo is, you will. If you know how print works in Python, you know how echo works. So echo basically just prints out the thing you said back to you, right? And if you wanted to print out the spaces, make sure you add double quotations, because otherwise it's going to interpret this as two arguments, right? What did we just learn? Arguments are separated by a space. So this is interpreted as two arguments, so it prints it out on a different line. You can also look at your folder. So currently I am in this folder, according to my prompt. But sometimes prompts don't tell you which folder you're in. So if you want to know what your folder is for sure, you can access it through pwd. And you can see that I am in the TreeSAPP folder, and then you can type in ls. ls tells you inside the TreeSAPP._work folder, I have all these files. And if I go to my normal, my normal file folder, I can see that I actually have the same files. So I have biomod, I have ca TreeSAPP create, I have tutorial 1, I have all these other things, all these other things. Great. So then, I'm going to show you what cd means. Cd means I'm going to change directory. So if I go into here and let's say I want to enter my tutorial 1 data, tutorial 1. So I enter in that folder. If I want to make another, so inside the tutorial 1, I can see that there are no files. If I want to make another folder, I can create, let's say, test1 folder, right? And then now if I ls, I can see inside this folder, I have a test folder. And if we go back in here, go inside tutorial 1, look, we just created this test1 folder. That's great. Awesome. We can also do some other things. Don't try to memorize these. Curl allows you to access a URL. So you can try doing curl on like Eggnog API, right? So you can also, earlier I demonstrated using curl with Google. So you just call Google. This is a very boring URL. It just returns you the HTML page for opening up the website. Not useful for all your purposes, but it could be used in other ways. There are also some other things. So if I type in cd dash dot dot, actually it allows me to go to the previous folder, like the parent folder. There's more explanation to this, but just know cd dot dot goes up. And if I wanted to go to back in tutorial 1, and I did cd dot dot slash dot dot, I actually skipped 2 folders. So if you want to skip multiple folders, you're going to have to do multiple dot dot slash dot dots, double dots. Now let's go back into the TreeSAPP folder, and let's clear the screen and show you guys I'm in this folder again. And if I look in this folder, I actually have a lot of files. For example, I have this massive text file right here. So if I wanted to see all this text file, wow, that's a lot of sequences. And this command, cat, basically shows you, it means concatenate. So it shows you, it adds everything in that file onto your screen. So this is a very, very long file. And so you can't do this in Windows PowerShell. But if I went into TreeSAPP in here, and I showed you guys what this file was here, I actually don't have to see the whole file. What I can do in Linux and Mac, I can actually just see the head or git bash. But you won't be able to do that in PowerShell. If I try to do head here, it doesn't understand this. So again, it's a matter of whether your command line understands this or not. Some command lines do, and then you'll get to see just like the first page of the file. And then if you wanted to see the whole file, you could actually see the whole file, which is very, very, very long. Yeah, it's a very long FASTA file, so we don't have to read all of this. But that's what it is. Yeah. Now I'm going to go over like running TreeSAPP locally for your interest. This is not for you guys to actually do it. I just want to, if for your guys' interest, if you want to understand, this is for like how you would use like Git, like the Unix shell and terminal commands to like really run TreeSAPP, and how like I use it. And it's not super professional. Like really, it's just some basic stuff. And the reason why we're going to do it this way is because TreeSAPP doesn't come on its own code. It's not one single program. It's actually multiple softwares. So it uses software such as hidden Markov models. It uses such as like a evolutionary placement algorithm like software. So there's multiple software that you want to download with TreeSAPP. So because of that, it can be really annoying to like configure all these software to work together. So there's this easier download, which we're going to do via Docker. If you guys are interested in a Docker tutorial, we can go over it. But so I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do in Docker. So first we're going to download Docker. I already have it downloaded. And then you're going to get the Docker image for TreeSAPP. So the Docker image for TreeSAPP is actually just an instruction of what TreeSAPP needs to run. So this is inside this quay.io hallamlab TreeSAPP file. You can download it from the internet, and once you download this file, you can put it into Docker, and Docker now knows how to like run TreeSAPP because it has the instructions inside this file. So someone at the Hallam Lab wrote this instruction file, and so now Docker knows how to just follow the instructions inside this file, right? And then you can run the Docker image as a container. So again, you're running the Docker images, you're running the instructions using Docker. So we're going to do Docker run. So Docker run is really easy. It's just this line, Docker run. And you can see right here, I have a flag, and I also have flag arguments. So that's an example of like the command, subcommand, flag, and other arguments, right? And so this allows me that it tells me I am now running Docker, and I am now using Docker to run TreeSAPP at this ID. So if I showed you guys all the things I'm running right now, you can see that I am now actually running TreeSAPP on this ID. So that's good to know. Now, I'm actually going to stop this because I'm going to show you guys what inside Docker. So if we go into Docker, you can actually execute several things. You can execute shell commands. So that you can execute bash shell commands. And I'm going to show you guys something we can execute. So I'm actually going to execute ls. Does anyone know what ls means? Yeah, so ls means it allows you to see everything in your folder. Okay, let's ls. So we get all of these files. Actually, let's ls something differently. Let's ls, we're going to ls, okay, whatever. We're going to ls and we see all these files, but if we ls right now, when we're not inside Docker, we see that we have a different set of files. So this actually means that Docker has a different set of files when it's running TreeSAPP than us. So to ensure that we can access our own FASTA files inside Docker, we're going to run Docker slightly differently. We're actually going to run Docker using this command, which I've set up for easy access. So Docker we're gonna run Docker. So this is a command, subcommands. We have a bunch of flags, and we have some flag arguments, and then we have our last argument which we're running, which is the Docker. We're running TreeSAPP, right? So you notice here that we have this folder, and then we have another folder. So this folder is our TreeSAPP.work folder, which has all our FASTA files, and we're actually going to go into users charity /_work. So this is a fake folder that I made up. This folder is actually going to be inside this Docker container, right? So I'm gonna make a fake folder in here, and whenever I access this folder, I'm gonna be able to access all the files inside here. Let's run this. Okay, and Docker, I'm gonna show you what I'm running. So I'm running two instances of TreeSAPP. One of them is a previous instance, and one of them is my current instance. And then I'm gonna run ls in Docker. If I run ls in Docker, I now see that I have a users. And then if I run cd into users, and then I also run ls, I can see inside users I have a charity _work folder, like I specified. And if I run that again, what do I get? Look, I get all my FASTA files. So if I ls right here, I have the same files. I have biomod, I have the ca2_TreeSAPP create, I have tutorial 1 somewhere here, and I also have like all my other like FASTA files, all in the same spot. Great, so now we can access these files inside the Docker container. Now we're going to execute Docker. So again, don't worry about trying to understand like all these things. What we can notice though actually is we have the command and subcommands, and we can identify multiple instances of the subcommands. So flamboyant bends. There we go. So this is the command, this is the subcommand, and this is our argument, right? So Docker is our command, this is our subcommand, and then this is our argument, which I have to change every time because every time I make Docker, I run an instance of Docker or container of Docker, it now gives me a different name for the container. And then we have, again, this whole thing is also another command. So this is a command. This is TreeSAPP. I downloaded TreeSAPP through Docker, so I can access TreeSAPP. This is the TreeSAPP subcommand. And then I have the TreeSAPP flags. This is a flag. And then I have users. This is my argument. Another flag. Another argument. Let's not name this. Another flag. Another argument. Another flag, another argument, another flag, another argument, right? So actually you can see that once you understand how if a command works, you can very quickly understand other commands because it's all the same format, right? So okay, let's understand this really quick. This is just telling me these are the arguments. As you can see that we have these are the arguments we put into TreeSAPP. It does some informational, like processing, some other things. The reason why I did this was because the reason why there is an error is because the file I put in here, right? If you remember the file I put in here, it was enog this one .fasta. So actually, if we looked at this one using our .cat command, we can see very quickly the issue. This whole thing, remember, cat shows you the whole file. So I'm not just seeing the top of the file, I'm seeing the whole file, and the whole file only has 2 sequences. So that's what explains our error. So this is just an example of why. But you can see very quickly that a lot of times when we're working with bioinformatics software, you're using the shell a lot, like this. Yeah, so that is the TreeSAPP tutorial and the Unix shell tutorial. I hope that it was able to help your overall understanding of the Unix shell, and that you can see how you can use this in very practical scenarios. I don't want you guys to memorize how to run TreeSAPP locally. There will be an easier way with SSH, so we won't have to do all the Docker stuff. But here's some review. I will fix this link. This is the wrong link, but there's more links if you want to use. And if you have questions, feel free to ask me.